Okay, is everyone here that's likely to be here? Looking like a reasonably full house. As it's
yeah, I think we're good to go.
Okay, with your permission, I shall crack on. Good evening, everyone. I'm Councillor Jonathan Fern, Chair of the Forum. I would like to welcome everyone to the meeting. This meeting is being held virtually and in accordance with the Council's rules for virtual meetings. Councillors are reminded that although the meeting is being held remotely, they're regarded as being present in a meeting of the Council. They should observe the normal rules of behaviour, please. First off, could I please ask everyone present in this virtual meeting that your microphones remain muted and your camera is turned off while you are not addressing the meeting, as this will reduce background noise and avoid any unintentional disturbances. Can members also please ensure that their mobile phones are now switched off or on silent? Please can I also advise that the open parts of the meeting are being audio recorded and live streamed from the Council's website. In addition, a video recording of the meeting will be uploaded to the Council's YouTube channel after the meeting. Members and officers, where appropriate, for each item, please use the chat function or raise a hand button to indicate you wish to speak, and I will then invite you to speak at the appropriate time. Each member will be invited to speak in turn, therefore I would encourage all members to keep your contributions as clear and concise as possible, please. If members wish to leave the meeting at any point, could they please make themselves known to me and I will announce the meeting that you are to leave the meeting. Could I please ask the Democratic Services Officer to undertake a roll call of members of the committee to confirm who is present this evening, please?
Do you mind if I just ask a question, Chairman? I did have my hand up.
Please proceed, Councillor Woodward.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to ask, why is the meeting being held remotely? Because I know that remote meetings ceased to be legal, or at least decision-making meetings ceased to be legal back in May. So I just wonder why we're not in a room together.
It's a good question. I will ask someone from Democratic Services to respond, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Woodward, for the question. As I'm aware, it's a management decision that Winchester City Council have made wherever possible, where we've got forum type meetings that, as you say, aren't decision making, that for the time being they remain to be held virtually. I think it's under regular review, and you know there's no sort of it's not for forever that it will be like this, but yeah, that's the sort of decision that's been taken so far.
Okay, thank you, through you, Chairman, for that information. I must say I think that's regrettable, as the rest of the world is sitting in meetings. I don't know why Winchester City Council isn't.
Okay, very well. Well, obviously your comments, Councillor Woodward, are noted, and we shall move on accordingly. I have a raised hand from Councillor Lumley. Councillor, do you have a question, please?
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, just following up on that, I just wanted to deal with the same point at the same time, and I appreciate it's probably out of order meeting, so apologies for disrupting it on your first chairing before we even get to agenda item 1. I did notice in the terms of reference that it does suggest that meetings are to be held virtually, but Chair, with your permission, if we could have a discussion about that later, because one of the great things about the forum is actually when members of the public come along and actually tell us what they think. And we found when this has been online that hasn't happened quite as much, and there was some wonderful publicity last time that meant more were along, but you know, we all remember back in the Solent Hotel, in the packed room. So if we were able to either have a discussion or better still just agree now that the next meeting, if at all possible, will be a live meeting down in Whiteley, and we encourage as many members of the public to come along and tell us what they think, I think that will be a really, really good thing. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, by all means, I'm more than happy to discuss this further, Councillor Lumley. Councillor Therese Evans, you have raised your hand. Have you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. And I see Mrs. Pinnock wants to ask a question as well. But It's just a point of order, Chairman. I didn't really hear much of what Councillor Humby said, because he was either a long way from his microphone or he was speaking quite softly. So if he's going to contribute again, could he shout a bit louder, please? But if he was saying he wanted meetings in person, I am of the opinion that virtual for the moment is the right way ahead. All the other forums that we have are virtual, so there's no difference for Whiteley.
No, but look, I can't see myself. You got your glasses?
Are you muted?
Right, I've got headphones on, so hopefully I'm clearer now for Councillor Evans. But thank you for pointing that out.
Okay, could I briefly turn to Julie Pinnock? Your question, Julie.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to pick up on the point that was being raised by a number of members about a virtual meeting as opposed to an in-person meeting. And I think, you know, we can obviously note that and take it away for further discussion. But at the moment, it's been a cabinet decision. It was a cabinet report that agreed the new terms of reference. We've obviously got an item on the paper coming up, and it was a cabinet decision that these would be held virtually this year, given the pandemic. And that obviously can be reviewed. The terms of reference will be reviewed annually as well. So that's the position, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, I think that question's been satisfactorily answered now. So if we could move on, and I could ask Democratic Services to take a roll call of members this evening, that would be appropriate, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'll begin with the Winchester City Councillors, if that's okay. Councillor Fern, I can obviously see and hear is present. Councillor Bentote?
Yes, present.
Councillor Evans?
Yes, I'm here.
Councillor McLean?
Good evening, yes.
Councillor Miller?
Yes, I'm here.
Pearson?
Yes, I'm present.
Moving on to the Hampshire County Council members, Councillor Lumby?
Present. Thank you,
Councillor
Chair.
Woodward?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Chairman.
From Fareham Borough Councillor Bull?
Good evening. Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Eastleigh Borough Council, Councillor Pretty.
I'm here.
Whiteley Town Council, Councillor Evans. Councillor Evans. Okay, we'll make some inquiries with Councillor Evans, Chair. I have had an email from him recently. Councillor Mercer, I believe, has sent his apologies, and from Curdridge Parish Council, Councillor Bodger. Councillor Bodger? Okay, I thought I saw Councillor Bodger join earlier, Chair, so we'll make some inquiries as to where he is. He does seem to be in the meeting, but come back to that. Chair, while I've got the microphone, do you want me to just do a quick rundown of officers and partners that are present with us this evening? Just
if you could, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. So from Winchester City Council, we've got Julie Pinnock and Hilary Oliver. Hampshire County Council Transport Team, Lisa Cook. I believe we've been joined by Jeff Davis of WIG. I think later on this evening, Martin Goff, also from Hampshire County Council, will be joining us. Sarah Tiller will be joining us later, Chair, from the Managing Director of the CCG. Tim Clark will be joining by about 6:15, who's the head teacher of Cornerstone Primary School. And we've also been joined by Ray Alborough from Hampshire County Council. I think that pretty much completes the roll call. There's a few other members that have joined to sort of listen to the meeting. Councillor Clear, for example, Chair. But yeah, that's my roll call done. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. I'll just clear up and ask a couple of raised questions. I believe Councillor Bodger, and we have a request from a guest. Councillor Bodger, could you ask your question, please? We can't actually hear you. It may be worth typing your question in chat because we can't seem to hear you at the moment, Councillor Bodger. Okay, I have a raised question from a guest. Could that person make themselves known to me, please?
I think that.
Okay, fine.
I think that was Councillor Bodger as well, Chair. Actually, we'll get in touch with Councillor Evans and Councillor Bodger and see if there's a technical issue.
Okay, well, I suggest in the meantime that we crack on regardless. We shall go on to agenda item 1, appointment of Vice Chairperson to the Forum for the year 2021-2022. As this is the first meeting of the Forum for 21-22 municipal year, it would be necessary to appoint a Vice Chairperson of the Forum. It should be noted, members, that in the event that myself being unable to attend the meeting, only a Winchester City Council member can actually chair the meeting of the Forum. With that in mind, could I please ask for any nominations for Vice Chair, please?
Chair, I think Councillor has indicated.
Okay, Councillor Miller.
Yeah, I'd like to propose Mike Evans, please.
I so second, Councillor McLean.
Okay, Councillor Therese Evans.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to propose Councillor Roger Bentote, who is one of the ward councillors, like yourself, Chairman. And as you have rightly said, it can't be chaired in your absence. The forum can't be chaired by someone who's not a Winchester City Councillor. I have every respect for Mike Evans, who's chair of the existing Whiteley Town Council, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be chair of the, if there is going to be another town council. So Councillor Roger Bentote, ward councillor, is my proposal.
Okay, is anyone to second that, please?
Is Councillor Bentote allowed to second his own proposal?
I believe he is allowed to if he wishes.
Yes, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm quite happy to second myself.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other nominations, please? I'm not seeing any raised hands, so could I please ask for Democratic Services to undertake a vote, please, I believe.
Well, no problem at all, Chair. I mean, with the flag, though, obviously we're missing Councillor Bodger and Councillor Evans, who I believe are trying to get into the meeting. Obviously, we're quorate, so we can obviously go ahead with the vote if that's your wish, or we could pause for a few minutes while we try to get these two members in.
I think if we give another minute or two to see if we can get them in, if not, I think we should proceed on.
Okay, I'll be 30 seconds then, Chair. I'll just see if I can send a couple of emails through.
Lovely, thank you.
Chair, can I suggest that Hazel Croft Phillips puts her camera off, which will allow possibly a better bandwidth situation?
Duly noted, Councillor. I'll Councillor Croft, thank you. Thank you for switching off your camera.
Chair, apologies. I'm not having any joy getting Councillor Evans and Councillor Bodger into the meeting. If it's okay, I'll proceed with the vote for the vice chair position.
Thank you. I think we should proceed. Yes, please.
Okay, thanks, members. So
if I may, Eric Bodger has just come up on my screen saying guest admit.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bodger.
Councillor Bodger, could I ask you to switch off your video, please, whilst not talking?
Great. Thank you very much, Chair. Councillor Bodger, we're just about to undertake a vote for Vice Chair. There's two nominations that have been moved and seconded, Councillor Bentote and Councillor Evans. Councillor Mike Evans, I should say. So members, I'll just do a roll call of members. If you could either indicate Councillor Mike Evans or Councillor Bentote, please. Councillor Fern.
Councillor Bentote, please.
Councillor Bentote.
Yeah, Councillor Bentote.
Councillor Evans, Therese Evans.
Councillor Bentote.
Councillor McLean. You're on mute, Councillor McLean.
Mike, thank you. You're not struggling to hear me?
Yes.
Mike Evans.
Could you repeat that, Councillor McLean?
Mike Evans.
Thank you. Councillor Miller.
Mike Evans, please.
Councillor Pearson.
Mike Evans.
Councillor Lumby.
Mike Evans, please.
Councillor Woodward.
Purely out of practicality, I'll vote for Councillor Bentote, as it seems a vice chairman should be able to chair the meeting.
Thank you. Councillor Bull.
Hello, Councillor Benton, please.
Councillor Pretty.
Councillor Benton.
Councillor Evans. Councillor Mike Evans. Unfortunately, still not joined us. I had apologies from Councillor Mercer, and finally Councillor Bodger. Councillor Bodger. Councillor Bodger, can you hear me? We seem to have lost Councillor Bodger again, Chair, I'm afraid. That would be 4 votes for Councillor.
You're on mute, Councillor Fern. Still on mute.
Apologies, I was still on mute. I'm happy to proceed unless we can get hold of the missing votes from Councillor Bodger and Councillor Evans.
There's clearly some technical issues there with Councillor Bodger's line. He was in the meeting, but I didn't hear him make a vote. On that, Chair, it's 4 votes for Councillor Evans and 6 for Councillor Bentote.
Chair, can I make a point of order, please?
Councillor McLean, please proceed.
Thank you. It seems totally unfair that we have 2 members who are struggling to get past the technical difficulties our system is having, and we are unable to consider their votes. I think that is utterly wrong. I would ask for a re-vote, please, when they are back on the system.
Councillor McLean,
if we can't come up with a system that works, we seriously have a problem now.
Councillor McLean, I accept your point. However, where Councillor Evans and Councillor Bodger are, the internet is known for being slightly sporadic. I do not really want to delay the meeting or drag it on into the evening if they cannot attend in a timely manner or in the means which they cannot cast their vote.
Chair, again, if I may, very sorry, I don't want to sound off, but it is very, very unfair that 2 well-respected people are unable to place a vote because of the system we are operating. Thank you.
Duly noted. However, my comments still stand. We will proceed. Councillor Bento, you've raised your question, please.
Yes, I've had a message come through that the audio of this meeting is not being heard over the system, and people are trying to tune into it.
Thank you, Councillor Bento. Yeah, David Blakemore's with me this evening. He's aware of the issue, and he is sort of looking into it as we speak.
It's streaming now.
He's just advised me it has come up now. It should now be live streaming.
Thank you.
Okay, moving swiftly on, has agenda item 1 been satisfied?
Yes, Chair. I mean, the meeting was poorer. Yeah. So yeah, that's fine.
Excellent. Okay. I will then move on to council agenda number 2. Apologies. If Democratic Services could state who apologies have been received from.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies from Councillor Mercer, obviously notwithstanding the issues with Councillor Bodger and Councillor Mike Evans.
Okay, thank you. To move on to agenda item 3, to note the future following dates of the forum for this year, the 16th of November 2021 at 6 p.m. and the 10th of February 2022 at 6 p.m. Moving on to agenda item 4, minutes of the previous meeting held on the 18th of February 2021. Can the previous minutes of the meeting be signed as a correct record, please?
Agreed.
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 Councillor Woodward, you have raised your hand.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to approve minutes, Chairman, but just a quick question. It does say within the minutes that the CCG was happy to attend this meeting, and I was delighted to hear Sarah Tiller's name mentioned at the beginning. I just wondered where on today's agenda that would come, as it's not actually an agenda item.
Thank you, Chair. Item 9, Councillor Woodward, discussions on infrastructure.
Okay.
I think we said to Sarah we anticipated getting into that item around sort of 6:45 p.m. and she's going to join for them.
Okay, thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Pearson, you've raised your hand. Would you like to raise a question, please?
Yes, it's a question about the minutes, if I may. Is it appropriate time now?
Please proceed.
Right, okay. Item 3 in the minutes, public participation. I noticed Ms. McKinder raised a comment about footpaths, and officers agreed to publish a plan which shows the approved footpath links through the site and would also highlight those footpaths which were responsible to Hampshire County Council. Has that been done?
Okay, is anyone from Democratic Services able to answer that question, please?
Thank you, Chair. I'd need to refer to Hilary or Hilary Oliver or Mrs. Pinnock for that one. Thank you, Chair.
The map was sent to the lady herself, and its map is there as appendix 3 attached to this.
If I might say, Chairman, just to send a map to one person is hardly publication. That should have gone to the council and others.
Chairman, I think it was published as a supplemental paper to the last meeting afterwards. It was circulated and an email link went out to every participant. And as Hilary said, she emailed it directly to the person that asked, because they did ask for it. And I think it's available here, so Hilary could give, we can circulate it again if members have missed it.
Thank you.
Not the meeting, obviously.
Okay, thank you. I deem that question answered. Is there any more questions or any comments following that at all? No, in which case I shall move on. Agenda item 5, public participation. We have one speaker registered under public participation this evening, so I would like to ask Councillor Hazel Croft-Phillips if she would like to contribute to the meeting now, please.
Turn camera on. Good evening, thank you. I would like to contribute to the meeting. I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes.
Thank you.
We can, Councillor, yes.
Councillor Hazel Croft-Phillips of Whiteley Town Council. I have 2 questions. I won't go over the 3 minutes. Now, firstly, please could we have an update on the installation of facilities for wildlife? That is, the number of bird boxes and bat boxes and progress on the construction of hedgehog corridors. Do garden walls and hedges have spaces at their footings for hedgehogs to travel across North Whiteley? That's my first question. Could we please have an answer to that before I ask the second, or should I ask the second as well?
Anyone
Chairman.
able to answer that position? Perhaps?
Chairman, normal protocol is that we'll hear the public speaking and then we'll pick up these answers through the reports that the officers present through the meeting, if we can.
Right, okay. So shall I continue?
Yes, please.
My second question is, Winchester City Council rightly declared a climate emergency 2 years ago and have been working with the group WINAC, Winchester Action on Climate Change, to encourage parishes to take action to meet the government target of zero carbon emissions. And I know they changed the date, but I think it's 2030 at the moment. How have developers reacted to this, and what provisions are they making in the North Whiteley area, please? Thank you.
Okay, is anyone able to respond to those questions, please?
Chairman, I think what we would do is normally Hilary Oliver and I think it's Jeff would give their report, and if they can pick up on those through it, they will. And if any questions haven't been answered, we'll commit to come back to those afterwards, Chair, with your permission.
Very well. That's perfect. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions, Councillor Phillips? You're muted still.
May I request, please, that those questions are answered, because I know if questions are taken as a global number, sometimes things get missed, and I believe I'm not allowed to come back to ask a supplementary question. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm sure that your questions will be answered in due course in the appropriate manner. Okay.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item 6, to note the revised terms of reference for this forum, pages 13 to 28. The attached documents were presented and agreed at a recent meeting of Winchester City Council Cabinet and are provided here for noting. Can they be noted?
Chair, might I ask a question?
Councillor Lumby, please ask away.
Thank you very much. I notice in the terms of reference that primary objectives of the forum number 5 is secure the establishment of appropriate local democratic structures for the emerging community. It then lists out how this will be achieved, and it sets out 3 lettered activities, A, B, and C, the traditional 3. I wondered where in that we would be covering the establishment of appropriate local democratic structures, because that's clearly a very important issue. Now it's one of the main terms of reference, and I wonder where that's going to be addressed. And if it's not on the agenda, can we please have a slot for that? Thank you.
Okay, I refer to Democratic Services on that one to answer, if they could, please.
Thank you, Chair. Julie Pennant might be a better place to help with that one.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think I think that's a fair point. And what I thought was, in terms of the report, and as you know, those are the kind of key objectives of the forum across its lifespan, and then each meeting will have the following input, and that's what we've reflected in the agenda today. But then I go on over the next page to set out the different stages of the forums, and we've got 3, haven't we, across the district. So we've got stage 1 at the planning stage, stage 2 at the emerging stage, and it's at that stage when really we'll look at the establishments of residents associations and or parish councils. And I think probably what we might suggest, Chair, is that we look at future work programmes for the forum, and maybe this could be a topic for future discussion at a future meeting, Chair, because obviously it is a wider issue, but I'm not sure it's one we can just pick up tonight.
Very well, agreed. We shall discuss this later. Councillor Bentote, you've raised your hand, please. We have your question?
Yes, I'm going to make some of the similar points that Mrs. Pinnock just made. So I'm quite happy to accept the terms of reference as they are, but obviously we do need to look at them every now and again to decide exactly where we are. And so it's important that they are discussed at meetings. But I'm happy to accept them, note them as we're asked to do at the moment.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bentote. Councillor Lumby.
Thank you, Chair. So can I just clarify what's been suggested? Are we going to have a discussion as to the future plan on this evening and what it might entail, or are we going to put this on the agenda for the next forum? There are clearly different parts to it, and I think the sooner we can start that discussion, the better, particularly as it was meant to be triggered when there are 500 occupants and we already have over 300, and we are therefore moving rapidly along. So the sooner we get going and a formal report is put forward on this and we start actually engaging with residents, the better. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, is anyone able to help with this point, Julie?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It won't be this evening, Chair. I think we'd need to go away and make sure we have the right officers present for that, wouldn't we? It would probably be someone like Steve Lincoln, who's our service lead in communities, somebody in terms of looking at that, the process that we would need to go through, probably someone from our legal team as well. But I certainly think if we, what I thought we might do this year, and with your permission, Chair, is issues that come up that we clearly aren't able to deal with tonight, but we can think about future work programmes and then think about how we schedule those over the sort of the 3 meetings of this year. And then equally, the terms of reference will be reviewed every year as well, so as we can look at the progress we've made, look at whether we're moving from an emerging sort of stage 2 to an establishing stage 3, and what that might entail for the fora here today.
Okay, very well. Any other questions at all? Anything anyone wants to raise before I move on to the next subject, please? Okay, Councillor Evans.
Yes, Chairman.
Sorry, Councillor Evans.
Had another voice. Although I said to you I wouldn't bring it up, I just would like to inform the fora that I have questioned the deputies, because on page 19 of our report, it mentions 1 deputy, which is Councillor Gemmell, for 6 Winchester City councillors, and then 1 deputy for Councillor Mike Evans, and 1 deputy for Curdridge, and that's 1 deputy for 6 people seems a nonsense to me, and I think it should be more than that. And David Blakemore has said he would go away and look at it, and I don't know whether we've got to wait a whole year, but it does seem a nonsense. And then some people haven't got deputies at all, some organisations, but I would like that looked at as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Can Democratic Services provide comment on that, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, as Councillor Evans said, I think David Blakemore's going to take that issue away and have a look at it. We don't have an answer off the top of our heads, unfortunately.
Okay.
We will come.
Sorry. Okay. If there are no more questions, we will move on to agenda item 7. Which is the updates on the physical development of the MDA. Could anyone wishing to speak please make themselves known?
Thank you. I think at this point we were going to introduce Lisa Cook from Hampshire County Council transport team. I think this was a previous issue that was raised at the forum. that members wanted to hear from, specifically regarding the buses, I believe. So maybe if we could start with Lisa and take questions following that.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Evening, everyone. So with regards to the bus service in North Whiteley, I understand I'm here particularly to talk about the extended service in North Whiteley. We postponed the introduction of this service following the impact of COVID. As you'll understand, with services that are funded through developer contributions, the contributions are finite, and we didn't want to utilise them early on for very, very low numbers of passengers travelling, when we could hold off until government advice was more pro bus and pro public transport, and encourage further people to use the bus service and get a good mode share from day one. So as a result, the existing 28 service will be enhanced from autumn this year. There's been a number of further delays due to some infrastructure issues on the site, which we're developing solutions for, along with partners and highways and other agencies too. So we should be seeing the service starting in autumn. I'll be able to update with an exact date in the coming months. As it is, we'll have to let the traffic commissioner, who is responsible for all bus services in the country, know when the service will commence. Therefore, we'll have a notice period in advance. At that point, I'll work with my colleagues in the travel planning team, Amanda Morris and colleagues, to ensure that the bus service is being thoroughly promoted. First, buses will do the same, and they're already working with Amanda and her colleagues on measures that will encourage modal shift over to bus.
Okay, I have a question myself, if I may.
Yeah.
What are the chances of the bus service being extended and opening in September when Cornerstone School opens?
At the moment, the most recent date I have seen is October rather than September, but I can go away and find out why that is. If it's infrastructure that we can't change sooner, that's one thing, but otherwise I can see the sense in aligning with the school to allow school trips to take place, and I'll go back and find out, and I'll provide an update at a later date.
Okay, love, thank you. With the travel coordinator,
yeah,
when are they expected to start, and where will they be based from?
I don't know the answer to that. As I understand it, I thought Amanda Morris had provided a written update to cover that information, because it's not something I get involved with. I'm purely local bus, but again, I can provide an update if she hasn't done that at a later date.
Okay, excellent, thank you. And sorry, last question from me. Could you tell me what school bus provision has been made for secondary school children who live in North Whiteley to get to Swanmore, Brookfield, or the Henry Court schools, please?
No, I can't, but I'm pretty sure I've got a colleague on the line, Martin Goff, who deals with home school transport. So, Martin, do you know the provision planned?
I've got a particular item that starts with school places and does reference home to school transport. So if it's okay, if I pick up that general and specific as and when I'm doing my item, that probably will be most efficient.
Okay. Councillor Pearson.
Chairman, is it now appropriate to pick up the two questions that the member Councillor Hazel raised earlier on? You said they would be dealt with at the appropriate time, and it strikes me that this document is the appropriate time.
Yes, if Councillor, if Julie Bennett would like to answer, or anyone from Democratic Services, or anyone else that feels well versed to answer the question, please.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we can do that now, but I'm just wondering if it might be better to finish with Lisa Cook's section first before we move on to Hillary's and Jeff Davis's update, if that's okay.
Of course.
It's okay with me. I will remind you if you forget.
Okay, so as far as I'm concerned, with this, I can talk a bit about the bigger picture with regards to bus services, and that kind of covers the question earlier about climate change, in that I'm not sure how much the forum knows, but the government has released the National Bus Strategy, which sets out the ambition for bus services in the country, in England. It's an English National Bus Strategy. And as a result, Hampshire County Council, we're looking to set up an enhanced partnership with our bus operators in Hampshire. And the enhanced partnership is really an opportunity to build on the success we've had to date with regards to the work we've done with getting contactless ticket machines, next stop announcement on bus services, real-time passenger information, and rolling that out more widely, along with measures such as bus priority, integrated ticketing, perhaps tap on, tap off technology. Also, so that kind of initiative will have an impact on the bus service in North Whiteley and wider bus services in the area too. As it is first, who currently run the 28 and who will be running the extended North Whiteley service, are trialling a tap on, tap off technology initiative down along the bus rapid transit route between Fareham and Gosport. So there's lessons we can learn there. We're told that passengers would like to see initiatives like that, as you do in London, where you just literally hop on, you hop off, and you've got a capped payment, so you don't end up paying too much each day. And so these benefits will be implemented over the next few years and will impact on the services in North Whiteley and will provide benefits to those passengers and make the services more attractive and more potentially viable commercially in the longer run.
Okay, Councillor Bentos.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. Just a couple of questions. I think it'd be useful for people to understand what the frequency of these bus services would be, and also the time limits, because where I live, I can get to Winchester, but I can't leave Winchester after 7 o'clock in the evening. So, you know, the time buses are running for is an important factor. When we
Absolutely.
Want to people.
Okay, there's two issues here. So first of all, the issue is the timing of the new North Whiteley service, and it's the service is designed to increase in phases as the build out rate increases, basically. So phase 1 will be the extension of the existing service to double the frequency. And I can probably, if I can find it quickly, find you a timetable, or at least I can send it round for later for consideration. Hold 1 second. Yeah, so the new service will be hourly, and it runs from the first journey of the day is 6:25, and the last journey of the day will be leaving, so 6:25 from Fareham, or arriving in Fareham. I guess you could say the first journey arrives in Fareham at 7:42 in the morning. The last journey of the day leaving Fareham at 6 p.m. at night. So you're right in that doesn't provide for evening journeys, and it doesn't currently. However, going back to what I was saying earlier with the National Bus Strategy, the government are very clear that they want to see an increased level of service of provision in both at weekends and evenings, and that's something that they've targeted local authorities to work towards, and something that we will look to work towards. So where the development expands and where the build out rate increases, there'll be add-ons to this service that will extend the operational day to allow for more leisure trips to take place, which we see as an area of growth going forward.
Okay, thank you very much.
Lovely. Councillor Lumbey.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Lisa, for the report and the answers. Quick question. I don't know whether you know the answer. Will the buses run through as far as the Fareham Community Hospital, which obviously might be useful for residents?
And now you're testing me. I've got a route map, but it's literally written on a piece of paper, and I don't think I can. Can I come back to you on that, because I don't want to give you the wrong answer.
No, it's fine.
I will contact you separately about that.
That's absolutely fine. No problem at all. Lovely, thank you. And sorry to.
No problem. I'm very familiar with all of the routes, but because there's so many phases and the route changes each phase, I don't want to get it wrong in the phase we're in now. So I'll come back to you.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Pearson.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, it's just basically a comment as much as a question. Have the bus people considered, if you're stopping the bus service at 6 o'clock in the evening or 1800 hours, it makes it much simpler so you don't confuse it with 6 in the morning, the impacts of that on car ownership in North Whiteley. I mean, if there's no bus service, you're going to encourage car ownership. I mean, that's happened all over the Main Valley. So what provision are you making for that? I mean, 6 o'clock in the evening for people coming back, for example, from Ferrum Technology is no use at all, because many of their lectures are in the evening.
I completely understand your point. Initially, when we designed this, the transport provision for North Whiteley, we had the phase we're in now would have had a much wider span of day. But with and this kind of happens, it's not regularly, but it's something I've seen before, where the transport strategy is written so many years before build out, then and where things outside people's control happen with regards to the bus sector, the cost of providing the service we had designed initially was not within budget. So we had to reduce our original ambition and squash the operating day so that we can afford to have the full service we need, but we'll have enough money to be able to run out all the phases so that once the build out is completed, there's enough funding to ensure that there's a decent service there at that point. So my answer to you is that we're having to prioritise the point in the development when there are more people living on the development as to when we can expand the span a day. And I appreciate what you're saying, because it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation, isn't it? You don't provide the journeys, therefore people don't use the bus, or you do provide the journeys and people don't, and people are able to not buy a car in the first place, but those journeys come at a high cost, and we had to make the decision as to where we were going to save the money, and it was decided that this would be it.
When it comes down, Chairman, then have the developers provided the necessary parking for quite clearly the additional number of cars that are going to be in North Whiteley? Because, for example, if you're going to go shopping or the cinema in Whiteley, the centre of Whiteley, there's a number of shops in the centre of Whiteley, which of course we all know. And of course, they've got the cinema in the centre of Whiteley. Or if you want, for example, go shopping in Botley or whatever, no bus service in the evening. So you've got to get in your car. I mean, I live in the countryside. Councillor Bentro lives in the countryside, and we know very well the impact of that on the villages. Now you're repeating this within an urban area. It's quite disappointing.
I think what I would come back to say is that whilst I understand your point of view, I do. We're doing what we can with the funding available now, but longer term, I would expect to see that the measures introduced as a result of the National Bus Strategy, which really is a once in a generation opportunity that the government have provided, will go towards mitigating the impact of a less of a bus service that doesn't cover until say 10, 11 at night. So I would hope that longer term, whilst we've got the short term period of a bus service that doesn't go past 6 p.m, but is still there for the peak times, which we have to remember are predominantly traditional employment times and school, even with the impact of COVID, that's still the case. But then longer term, we'll see that the impacts of bus priority, we'll see the impacts of better ticketing, we'll see the impacts of investment in infrastructure, boosting the commerciality of services, making the services cheaper for bus operators to provide. Therefore, they're able to provide a longer span of day, perhaps invest in something that they're not sure whether it's going to be commercially viable or not. They'll say, well, let's give it a go, because their operating costs have come down, because congestion's lower, and because more people are using the bus in the first place.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pearson. Does anyone else have any more questions for Lisa Cook, please? I'm not seeing any raised hands, so thank you very much, Lisa, and we look forward to further updates.
Thank you very much, everyone. Night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, we now have our regular update from Jeff Davis of WYG, and then Hilary Officer, the Implementation Officer, please.
Good evening, Chair. Thank you very much. Jeff Davis here. We're now actually called Tetra Tech, I'm afraid. WYG got taken over a couple of years ago, so we're now Tetra Tech. Matthew, have you got that report that I issued?
Yes, I have, Jeff. Yeah. You want the report first?
Well, whichever is, it comes in two parts because we have the video flyover, and I've prepared a short report that goes, sort of complements it. If you put up the video first, I suppose, gives the flavour.
Okay, hopefully members can see that. I'll just start playing that now.
So this is the drone flyover that we run every month. This version was issued at the end of May. The next one should be issued by the end of the month. It starts in the north of the site and looking at the Bow Vistry area, with a quick view looking to the south over Bridge 2 into the areas that are under construction. We're now working on Whiteley Way from one end to the other to form the new link that will go all the way through down to roundabout 3 in Whiteley. So brief view again over Bridge 2, looking down what we call Contract 4. And just there is Road 1.3, Curbridge Way. It's just now switched over to the Western Access Junction, looking down at Crest area. Botley Road underneath. And it's panning back sort of in a sort of southerly direction there. Now looking to the south down Bluebell Way, which was opened in February. You should be able to get a good view of Cornerstone School construction just there in the centre of the picture. Looking down towards Bridge 3 on Bluebell Way. Another view of the primary school just there on the left. And there again. We're now looking over towards Whiteley Gardens and the Taylor Wimpey development, just on Whiteley Way. Looking back north towards the Bridge 3 construction area. It finishes with a view looking down towards Whiteley, roundabout 3, just there. Thank you, Matthew. I've also issued a short report which will be published, I think. It's not already on the website. It's published shortly. Matthew's just going to bring up. So this is using photographs from the most recent video drone flyover. You just pan down fairly swiftly, Matthew. I'll talk over the overview is maybe the best just to stop on just for a second. Just to summarise the works, people are interested in the works between the Northern Access Junction and Station Hill Road, the cycleway going up Botley Road. And that's I spoke to Vistry this morning. That's due to start, they believe, by the end of the month now. They're just trying to agree traffic management with Hampshire and hope to be out there by the end of the month and start on that work, which will take about 4 months to deliver. So should be in place by the autumn time. Moving down the plan, the Whiteley, we've just flicked down the Bluebell Way. Sorry, Matthew. I mentioned Whiteley Way. We're now working on that to complete the link all the way through to roundabout 3 from the Northern Access Junction, and that should now be finished. It's a sort of delay from what I reported last time, but it'll be finished current projections in April. and that's the section that runs down Whiteley Way. Curbridge Way will follow on a bit later now. Vistry have decided to not to start that until spring next year. The off-site Whiteley Way works between roundabout 3 and roundabout 1 are somewhat delayed. We've finished the embankment works that people have seen going on, and we have currently some further cable laying works going on there, sort of to the side of the highway. Most of the major service diversions have now been completed by Southern Electric, and they're starting to clear site. But we're suffering some delays in trying to get legal agreements completed to be allowed to get onto the highway to start the widening works. And we've had some issues in finding a culvert between roundabout 2 and roundabout 1. It's not strong enough. It's an existing culvert underneath the area that's to be widened. It's not strong enough to carry the future road, so we're trying to deal with that particular issue at the moment. As things stand, I don't think we'll be able to start work on this this year, because by the time we get our legal agreements in place and deal with the sort of 3-month lead-in for traffic management and so on, the traffic management embargoes in and around the shopping centre cut in around about the middle of October, so it'll be quite difficult to foresee a start there this year. I think if you just flick down through the rest of the report, Matthew, it's mostly photographs that people have already seen, which I tend to sort of annotate just to show them more easily where they are. But similar views to the video. This is all sort of flicking through Bluebell Way. Looking to the northern access junction. Back to the south again, Bridge 2 and beyond. Whiteley Way. Just a quick view of the sort of construction site in and around where Bridge 2 is being built. Further view to the north of that construction. Quick view over the Taylor MP site, Whiteley Gardens, etc. And again, that shot. I won't dwell on the housing progress because I know that figures within Hillary's report. And a quick view of the school, a picture taken the end of last month, making rapid progress. Touching upon the cycleway that I mentioned before, and an off-site Whiteley Way. What this report isn't doing, and just to answer one of the questions raised by Councillor Croft Phillips about ecology, there is plenty of work going on various sort of aspects of wildlife facilities and so on. So there's some good news to report, but I think what I'll do, I do a separate report for our clients on this, but I will sort of take a version of that and draw a little addendum for this report and send that out to give us a sort of little status on activities. I think I've touched upon the issues of roundabout 1 to 3 already. At the end, I've just done a little sort of summary, which I won't dwell on now, it takes too much time really, but of landscaping progress. We've got a number of planning applications running and about to be submitted for public open space. We're bringing forward delivery of playful areas and leaps, and the allotment 1 is going to start fairly soon. And it finishes just with a quick reference plan of where all those items are. So hopefully that gives you a quick flavour of activity.
Okay, lovely. Thank you, Jeff. Have you done with your presentation now, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Lovely, thank you very much. Could I please ask Hilary Oliver to provide an update, please?
Hello, Chair. Just picking up from Jeff's comments about the biodiversity, Hazel did ask a question at the last meeting, and I did put a little appendix together with some of the initiatives that the developers have undertaken already. But obviously, as Jeff says, we'll come back with further details in an addendum report, which again we'll publish on the Minute website and Hazel Direct, if that's okay with the Chair. Going forward, yes.
Thank you.
Just want to, so some of the issues from the last meeting that the report covers, we had a gentleman having a trouble with a generator. We did have a lot of trouble trying to find out where this was, because despite numerous site visits, we couldn't hear it, but it did turn out to be a human error. Somebody was leaving it on intermittently when they shouldn't done. So hopefully that has been sorted with the developer, and in actual fact that parcel was just about complete, so hopefully that problem's gone away. There was also the question of the footpath from the existing Whiteley Way, which Ray might have more information on, but I've been assured HEC are upgrading that in August, so that should be ready for the school opening in September. Again, I have republished the footpath under this agenda, but as Matthew's assured me, it was actually published with the last minutes as well. Infrastructure, and just wanted to reassure people, again, Ray might be able to touch on this if necessary. We've realised there is a problem with vegetation on Bluebell Way, where there's some parking on one side and the vegetation are affecting the sight lines. That's now going to be cleared up, hopefully. Moving on to the housing update, which kindly left to me. Appendix 4 shows the current approved applications and the status of build out. We've got 1,446 houses have been approved, and currently with 300 occupations. I would just say that the occupations do include houses that have been handed over for the housing association, so there might not actually be people in them, but there's 300 that have been handed over. Since the appendix was issued, we've received another application for Tate Wimpey for another 395 houses. So current, we've got 618 dwellings under consideration. So in total, we've had applications for 2,064 houses out of the total permission of 3,500. So we've got another 1,446 to be applied for. School development is on schedule to open in September. The secondary school is still being in the process of being negotiated. Community facilities, the allotments, again, we're discharging the soil conditions on allotment 1 and 3 with anticipating start for allotment 1, which is at the bottom of Bluebell Way, due in the autumn. We've also got an application in currently for the temporary community centre, which is in the north of the development, and we're just in discussions with the developer on a management agreement for that. It's actually, the proposition at the moment is to use an existing dwelling on the house that will eventually be demolished as a temporary community centre. And just also, since I wrote the report, which might be of interest, we've had a new application for a telecommunication mast, which will be on site, which will cover all of the new development and up into Curdridge. Also attached with my report is an update from Amanda Morris, the travel plan coordinator. She's currently working on the welcome packs, which will include details of the buses and the travel plans and travel vouchers. We're hoping to get those out as soon as she can get it all printed up. Apart from that, if there's any questions on the report, the other point I was going to pick up on, in terms of climate change and the developers are currently building out the development as per their planning permission. There are conditions on their reserve matters applications to do with the energy efficiency of the homes. But apart from that, I can't offer any other information of initiative the developers are making on climate change. I think that's it, unless there's any questions.
Okay, Councillor Pearson.
Right, thank you, Chairman. Right, I think I'm all switched on now. Yeah, a couple of questions. The first one is about the telecom mast. Quite clearly, it's not a question of turning it down or anything like that. But could you tell me what the proposed height of that mast is? If you're going to cover the whole of the area, you're talking about quite a substantial mast. So how tall is it going to be? The second one, I noticed in Jeff's reports, some of the air view of the present building sites suggested that all the top layer of soil had been removed from the site. Now, this is pretty general practice, but from a biodiversity point of view, one would look for that soil to be put back into the gardens, because the best will in the world, whatever you may do for badgers or newts or what are the other things you've got, or bats, you've got to live on something, and vegetation is one of those things. Now, you can't grow much vegetation if you don't have any topsoil in the gardens or in the other sites. So what is being done about that? Because you've given us minimal information about biodiversity so far. The screen has gone blank as far as I can see. I hope this doesn't mean your camera's frozen. Are you going to answer that, Jeff?
Well, generally speaking, the topsoil, yes, it is taken off initially for the works and then stored and then reused to go back into gardens. That's a general rule. It's by far the best thing to do, and it also happens to be the cheapest. So that's generally what's happening.
Well, I agree, Jeff. It's best policy rule, and it does happen in many places. But I can show you through a few sites where that hasn't happened. Not in Whiteley. I've got to agree. So I'm look forward to that soil being, at least as much as you can, put back into the new garden sites. It's, as I say, as a general rule, you've got to remove that soil for the building process. I fully understand that. But unless that soil is put back, then you've got a big gap in your biodiversity policies.
Agreed.
Okay, Councillor Bentote.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure whether this is the right point to bring that in, because I'm not sure that it affects, or the answer comes from Winchester City Council, but I have received a number of emails from residents who find that their children are not going to be able to go to the primary school. Now, these people who have just moved into North Whiteley, and there are no places for them. So I think it's something that perhaps our Hampshire colleagues could do some investigation about to find out why this has actually happened. Obviously, people who moved to North Whiteley and see this lovely new school being built, and it does look good from what I've seen. So it's a shame that people who live next door to it are going to have to take their children some distance away. One of them was mentioning, I forget how many miles, I think it was towards 20 miles away, but although an answer did come back that there were nearer schools, but it does seem very unfortunate that people moving into the area cannot use the local facilities. And I think we, as the forum here, need to push this issue with Hampshire County Council that they have not done their homework in time. They've not thought about the numbers moving into the area and assessed how they will be fitted into the primary school. So can we please put a bit of pressure on Hampshire County Council to perhaps open up another class or whatever? Thank you.
Mr. Goff from Hampshire County Councils may be able to respond to that. I've also noticed Mr. Clark, the head teacher of the primary schools, put his hand up at that point as well. So,
oh, great, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Clark, if you feel like answering that question, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you for the question, Councillor Bentote. From a school perspective, myself and the governors, we have a clear sort of agreement that we want to offer places to everybody who is buying house in North Whiteley. You know, that's why we're being built. We want to be able to be the local school. Hampshire County Council have agreed that they will fund us opening a second year R class for this coming September, because we are over the legal limit of 30 people who wanted applications. It is quite a fast changing situation. At the moment, I'm emailing Hampshire admissions team approximately every 2 or 3 weeks with updates. The governors did take a vote about 6-7 weeks ago saying that they would like to open an additional class, a year 3-4 class, which is where at the moment we've got a longer waiting list. We've communicated that with Hampshire and said that would be our preference, to have an additional class opened. But currently at the moment, the response has been that because there are other spaces in other local schools, Hampshire are not in a position to be able to fund it at the moment. From a school perspective, that's very frustrating. We're very keen to say to parents, we want to be able to offer you these places, but we also want to make sure that we are keeping our current children safe. So, for example, our current year 3 class, where the governors have agreed we can't go beyond 32 for safety reasons and for quality of education. At the moment, we're actually at 33 because we lost an appeal. Ideally, we'd like to have an additional class so that we could keep class numbers 32 at the max, because for the children's safety and for their education. So we will keep having conversations with our colleagues from Hampshire and keep making the point and sharing those updated numbers. But again, we're very keen for local residents to know that as a school and as the governing body of the school, we would very much like to open those additional classes.
Well, thank you very much for that. I mean, as an ex-teacher, I appreciate the position, and it is very difficult for you to push for things. So I feel that if we, as the board councillors and our county councillors, should push our authority to actually doing what is necessary. So you certainly have my support and my fellow ward councillors' support, I'm sure. And
well, thank you, much appreciated.
Yeah, I hope that Councillor Humby will agree with that. From previous conversations, I'm sure he will. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Lovely. Thank you, Councillor Bentham, and thank you, Mr. for your update. Councillor Lumby, please.
Thanks, Chair. And just for the benefit of Councillor Bentote and to Councillor Evans, it is Lumpy, not Humby. So it starts with a L. I know that one's up. Full gets a lot of people confused. Interesting, by the way. That was an interesting comments on the schools and the classes. Yes, absolutely. We obviously want to see these classes opening up, and I agree with that. By the same token, clearly, you know, if a class is 1 or 2 children, then you can see the issues with that as well. So it will be interesting if the exact figures could be shared as to what the shortfall is in each group and what the sizes are, and I'm sure that's with Hampshire. Can I ask on a different issue, Chair, which is on the housing figures, which Hilary so kindly provided, and thank you, Hilary, for the report and the presentation. All excellent as ever. I think last time round you showed the affordable element and where we were on affordable as against the projected total, which isn't here this time. Can I ask what percentage of the housing delivered so far is affordable, and what the different categories are of the housing? Maybe it's easier to circulate on a table later. And also what the demand is for the affordable housing, social rented. Do we have a queue? Do we want to be encouraging that, or do we need to slow it down slightly? Are we meeting the demand, exceeding demand, or not quite there yet? Thank you.
just to follow on from that, if you actually look at Jeff's report, he's got a similar table to mine, but he's got the affordable housing breakdown on his, but I can certainly update my chart and send on to you.
Where was that report? I didn't see that. Sorry, am I going blind?
Oh, Jeff, when he went through his report, he said I was going to talk it, but we can make sure that's distributed to everybody.
The one that was on the screen. Yep. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. That was.
Yeah, that will be
small for me.
To be honest, that's why I didn't include it in mine, so that it was clearer, to be honest. But because it's quite difficult to read on screen. So, but certainly we can make sure you've got that information. I know the rented block on the Bistry parcel was occupied really quickly. So as far as I can tell, everything's going to plan. It's quite difficult to tell because so much of the market housing has gone over to being shared ownership anyway, because Vivid have bought up both the Vistry parcels in the south. So you've not only got your 106 shared ownership, you've also got the rest of the development being shared ownership.
Yeah.
But I'll try and get some figures if we can work out how much is going over to shared ownership outside of the Section 106 shared ownership.
Thank you. And if we can have a feel for how that matches demand, that would be useful. Although, as you said, that rented went very quickly. So that's interesting. Thank you.
The curtains were up. Back on the question of the mast, I forgot to answer that. It is a full application, and so it's a lattice mask, so it is quite a tall mask, but it is in one of the open space areas. But I can give you the application number if you want, but if not, Councillor Bennett, I'll send it to you.
No, it was Councillor Pearson that asked the question, but I would be interested to know that, because lattice masks are not the most beautiful structures.
Councillor Pearson, you just muted yourself.
I'm going muted. Right, okay, I've got it back. Lattice masks are not the most beautiful structures. You've got to have a particular joy for them. The height is quite significant. Can't do anything about that, but it must be, if you're going to cover the whole of North Whiteley, it must be quite a height, certainly more than 10 metres, I would have thought. So it's a public interest. I would have thought, how high is that mast going to be? May I ask another question, Chairman? It's one for Chair.
I was going to announce you, but you beat me to it and interjected without permission. So slap wrist for you, but please proceed.
Right. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, it's a question to Jeff, and picking up again what Hazelcroft Phillips queried about the climate emergency, and I'm looking at the paragraph 1134 in the report that's in the agenda papers, which is whatever the title is. Oh, there it is. It's NWDF 15, I notice. Anyway, Hazel asked about the climate emergency and what actions, Jeff, are the developers doing in order to meet that emergency. And I notice in this at 11.34, you've got housing is meeting level 4 for energy and water, which is very good. Too early to make a comment about BREEAM, but if you maintain that across the site, your BREEAM designation again must be pretty all close to, it's certainly good, if not excellent. Could you suggest what other things are being done? Granted, planning applications have all been granted, but what are you doing to meet the climate emergency that the town councillor queried about? Indeed, we all are within the city council. Jeff, perhaps if you could answer that one.
I can certainly try. It's a very large question, as you can imagine, and I'm really going to have to. I'm going to have to sort of probably stick with what Hilary said for the moment, but in the background, I shall go and speak to our, because I'm representing a a number of developers who will all be doing slightly different things. So I would be well versed to go and consult with them to give a general, more of a general answer, to be perfectly honest. And I know that doesn't answer this particular question tonight, but I've written it down as one to take away, because these questions are going to be asked increasingly.
On it. I appreciate planning application are all granted. It's not a planning application issue that I'm raising. Well, it is. It's just public interest, because residents moving in are certainly concerned about that. We've heard the town council is concerned about it as well.
Well, indeed, and it becomes something that's of interest when customers are buying houses. So
indeed it is.
These questions will be being asked of developers, no doubt. So I will take that away, and I'll sort of conduct a conversation with developers and come back with an answer.
Thanks very much, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Pearson. Thank you, Jeff. Are there any more questions for Jeff or Hilary at all, please? No. I'm not seeing any more questions. Just a matter of housekeeping. I understand Councillor Tree Sevens is having some IT issues and may have left the meeting. If not, hopefully, Councillor Evans, you're still with us. If not, I will move on to the next item. So it's the report on community development activities and any issues arising within the MDA. We've allowed approximately 20 minutes for this item, and I'm going to start by asking Mrs. Julie Pinnock if she'd like to say a few words, please.
Excuse me. Sorry,
Sarah.
Yeah, my name's Sarah Tiller. I'm from the CCG. I was invited to come at 6:30 for my item, and it's now 7:20, and I'm just a bit concerned.
Okay, you are under agenda item number 9, which is literally to follow the next item, which will probably be within the next 15-20 minutes. If you could indulge us a little longer, please, and apologies for the delay.
And Chairman, I'm back in the meeting.
Welcome back, Councillor Evans. Good to see you. Mrs. Pinnock, could you provide comment on community development issues, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Actually, I don't think we'll take even 15 minutes, Chair. What I thought I would suggest today, given this is the first of this municipal year's meeting, is that if we hear from the floor about any community activities or any, we don't have a community development worker at this stage. So it kind of dovetails in, doesn't it, with the governance and democratic structure. So I was happy to hear from the floor about any suggestions for future meetings and whether there's any work programme and whether we want Steve Lincoln from our communities team along to a future meeting to pick up on this item, Chair. So quite a quick one, really. People might be pleased to know.
Okay, lovely, thank you. I don't believe we had anything down for questions on this one at all, so I'm going to skip straight over to item 9, if I may, discussion on infrastructure. Actually, hold on. I have raised hands from Councillor Tree Evans. Councillor Evans, please.
Oh no, I'm sorry, Chairman. I just can't get rid of the hand now. So no, I haven't got a question. Sorry.
Okay,
my
no problem at all.
computer's really playing up tonight.
No problem at all, Councillor Evans. Councillor Lumby.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to come back on the point we started on at the beginning, which is having a discussion about the parishes and where this will be located. It seems to me we have 3 choices. North Whiteley can remain as it currently is within Curdridge Parish Council, although I understand that Curdridge don't really feel they have the capacity to provide it with the service and love it needs. It could go into Whiteley Parish Council, and we run the town forum there, which gets into an existing infrastructure and works with the 106, or it could make its own way. And I think there are really 2 crucial questions. Is it going to leave Curdridge, and how do we decide about whether it leaves Curdridge or not? And then, if it is to leave Curteridge, where it will end up. And I do think that those questions should be considered at the next meeting because of the levels of occupation we're already seeing, and because frankly these residents already there don't know where they belong. They don't know who they've been looked after. They don't know who to make representations to. They are being disenfranchised. And we've seen this meeting here that we have a policy of being virtual for another year. This meeting is, we all had IT issues taking part. It's quite poor, really. And I think we need to be properly engaging with them, properly opening up in meeting in person, but that's a separate discussion. But I do think we should bring this one to the next meeting with positive proposals as to how we are going to consult, who with, and how that's going to be brought forward to a conclusion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Lumpy. If no one wishes to answer that, I certainly will. I understand from various conversations that a democratic process is going to take place, giving the residents of North Whiteley the ability to vote for who and how they wish to be governed at parish level. The details of it are not sorted out yet. They are being sorted out. There's discussions about various meetings and how this is going to take place, numbers of residents, etc., etc. But I feel it's not a discussion for this point in time, given the ambiguity surrounding it and the fact there is much to be ironed out. Obviously, I'm sure we can discuss this at a later date if that's perfectly acceptable with everyone.
But I do think we should put it on the agenda for the next meeting. You know, talk about it another day. We mustn't be long grasping this because discussions are going on about where 106 and green infrastructure is sitting, who takes responsibility for them, and can we just grasp this and put it on the agenda for the next meeting, and then instruct officers to produce a report with proposals for that. The next meeting is not until I think November.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's quite a long time away, and even that feels like a long way off. So can't we make that simple commitment to put it on the agenda for the next meeting?
Yes, I feel that would be a reasonable measure to put it on the agenda for the next meeting, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, with your permission, what I would say, we'll certainly, you're right, we've already committed to that, didn't we, earlier, to put this on the future work programme. But actually decision making will probably fall to cabinet or something like that. So whilst we can discuss that and bring the right people to the next meeting, we can provide an update on the work that's been done, between now and the next meeting, and then it will follow on from that with probably cabinet as decision maker.
Yes, but we're an advisory body and we should be given the opportunity to advise.
Noted. And that's what we were suggesting for the work programme. Thank you.
Okay, unless there are any other questions, Councillor Bodger, we have a raised hand from you. Unfortunately, Councillor Bodger, we can't actually hear you, at least I can't.
Me neither, Chair.
Sorry, Mrs. Pinnett, what was that, sorry?
No, we can't hear either, Chair.
No, Councillor Bodger, it seems you're having a few IT issues at your end. No, okay. Councillor Bentote.
Yes, well, I do meet with Curteridge Parish Council on a monthly basis, at least, and I'm very aware of their concerns about this, the parishing of North Whiteley. So I'm sure Councillor Bodger was going to raise some relevant points about linking up a small village with the major conurbation of North Whiteley and Whiteley. But I agree with the officers, Julie Pinnock in particular, that this has to go through a due process, and there will be options on the table, exactly as you've described earlier. I think it's important that probably we bring it to the next meeting to see how far down that road we've got. It does depend on the number of residents. and we need to work with the residents. They probably need to form their own sort of councils within themselves to get their voices heard to start off with. So it's a long, slow process, and by all means have it on our agenda to report at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bentote. Any more questions or comments based on any issues under agenda item 9, please?
Chair, just very quickly, Councillor Bodger's back in the meeting, so
Excellent. Councillor Bodger, if you'd like to raise your question. Councillor, we're unable to hear you at all. Do you wish to pose a question, or is our IT issues likely to likely to curtail that? No response. Okay. Moving swiftly on, agenda item number 9. We've allowed approximately 20 minutes to this item. We're going to start with a brief update from Martin Goff, who's the Head of Transport and Admissions at the County Council. And following Martin, we'll hear from Sarah Tiller, who's the Managing Director, Southampton Isle of Wight CCG. Martin.
Hi, good evening. I did join you briefly a little while ago without introducing myself, but Councillor Fern's just done that. I am Head of School Admissions, Homeschool Transport, and I also lead on school place planning, the bit that is understanding the numbers. I've got a brief presentation that I can just fly through if that's okay, Chair, because I think it's the easiest way to present what I've got to say. I've just got to stop something happening on another computer though. If you could just give me a moment. Sorry about that. Okay, so I want to share a screen, and I'm hoping it's going to go straight over to the... Oh, that's not what I was hoping to go over to. Are you seeing a PowerPoint presentation? And is it
yes, we are.
And able to be read? Okay, if I switch it over to slideshow, I tend to lose access to all of my icons. So if it's okay, I'll carry on with this. It's heavily text dependent. I'm sorry, but that was the quickest way to do it. And then it can be shared as a record after the meeting. The first thing I want to go through is just something about providing school places for new developments. The second is particularly in-year admissions on North Whiteley. And the third is a bit I think you already know about future school provision, with a bit that you perhaps don't know so much about. The thing that's going to be, let me just go straight into it and say that it will pick up some of the questions that have previously been raised in the forum. The first one is just about the general point of providing new school places for major new developments, and the thing I'm going to say is a generalism, and it applies to North Whiteley, and that is that we almost always begin with a provision that starts with an intake year R in a primary school and year 7 in a secondary school, and then that moves up through the school over a number of years. It's quite rare that we launch new classes higher up the school. And Tim mentioned earlier about a particular pressure for year 3-4, hence I use that example. But it's quite rare that those get launched in year. And for that to happen, there would need to be what we call a basic needs scenario, which is no nearby alternative school places. And we're making our assumptions based on the developers' anticipated build out and occupation rates. And all of those assumptions have been sort of fed into our approach to providing school places in the area. And we use those assumptions to create the timescales for developing new school provision. Moving quickly onwards to what's going on right now, and backing up what Tim said, really, that Cornerstone is the local school. When I wrote this presentation, there were this many school places in each of the year groups. And we're talking about right now, not September. I'll go on to September in a moment. And so you can see that there are spaces in years R1, 4, 5. Year 2 and 3, as Tim described, have no spaces. Year 6 has 30 children on roll, but if someone had arrived in that last couple of weeks or so, we would have been able to provide a place at Cornerstone under what is called the Fair Access Protocol, which allows an admission above the usual number and roll without breaking any rules. Any families moving into North Whiteley homes and not able to gain a place at Cornerstone can be referred to the nearest available place, and colleagues in my school admissions team will be able to help with that. And as we've said, from September, Cornerstone will be in its new building, and the new building is of the size that you know, able to accommodate 3 classes in each year group, 21 classes when it's eventually full. Tim's already mentioned that we at the County Council, the numbers expecting a school place in Cornerstone when I was taking the decision were 32. I think since then it's grown to 34 with a 35th name on the list, and therefore we are looking at something that is moving quite quickly. My next presentation talks about more information about September. The year groups rolled forward from the previous slide suggests that there are spaces in 1, 2, 5 and 6, but I know they're filling quite quickly, and September is already starting to develop a slightly different picture to when I produced the slide. But years 3 and 4 were known to be full. And in the blue table there, you can see where there are nearby school places available. Children referred to the next nearest school place, which for example can be Saresbury Junior School, can be eligible for local authority funded transport assistance. And we're working with the governing body at Cornerstone Primary School just to regularise the arrangement so that all the houses being built in North Whiteley now are going to be given catchment priority at Cornerstone starting from September 2023. Right now, the houses that are being built, I'm not sure if this detail is fully understood, are either in the catchment area for a primary phase for Saresbury Infant and Junior Schools, but at the northern end of the North Whiteley development, that is actually catchment for Botley Primary School. I'm flying on, because I know you haven't got lots of time, onto secondary school provision, and this was picked up earlier as a question. You're moving into the catchment area of Brookfield School and Wilden School. That little bit that is Botley is also catchment area, secondary phase catchment area for Wilden School. And going forward in September, there's also another school, Deer Park, which is full, but will treat applications from those new homes as in catchment. Wilden School is full in all year groups. Brookfield School, which is the catchment area for everything that's not in that northern end, has spaces in years 9, 10 and 11, but other nearby schools such as Swanmore do have spaces. And families moving into an area and with a secondary age child, that secondary age child, as long as they attend the nearest school with a space, will be eligible for local authority funded transport assistance. There's not service buses as such, and there's not directly contracted transport at the moment. I know of a child who moved into area and was able to access the Portsmouth City coaches service that serves Whiteley children attending Swanmore, and my transport team purchased the pass for that student because they were eligible for our support. The final slide just goes on to talk about the future school provision, and I think is detail that you already know around the second new primary school and some timings based on Section 106 agreements. And then the secondary school, again, just providing the detail there, 1,100 occupations at the end of 2023, and a new secondary school perhaps been on site as early as Easter 2024. What's new to the discussion perhaps for you is that starting in September, the authority will begin a consultation proposing that houses in North Whiteley, that's all bits of North Whiteley, will be given catchment priority at Henry Court School starting from September 2023. We can't do it any sooner than that, because that's the earliest date that this can be changed and be achieved because of the statutory timetable that we must follow. But this decision, this approach is in keeping with our provision of school places in the wider Whiteley development, because as we speak, Whiteley is in the catchment area for Henry Court. Going forward, the new secondary school on the extended Whiteley will bring a further change into that system. That was what I wanted to say. I imagine there may be some questions.
Lovely, thank you, Martin. Is there any questions for Martin? I see Councillor Woodward.
Thank you very much indeed, Chairman, and thank you, Martin, for that really helpful presentation, and it would be useful, Chairman, if that could be circulated at the close of the meeting. My questions, though, obviously on schooling. I fully understand the secondary situation, and clearly it's something that's going to be built in and ready in about 5 years' time, and I think that's accepted. The concern I do have around Cornerstone and the north of Whiteley catchment area, and I have had some residents from that area have contacted me. Obviously, I put on to Councillor Lumbey as assuming him to be their county councillor, but it does seem perhaps a little unfair that they've moved into their properties. Obviously, they've paid for this school through infrastructure payments, which have been made for those homes, and yet they're going to have to wait a couple of years before they fall into the catchment of the school that is literally next door to some of them. And I just wondered whether there couldn't be some way found of expediting, given that we've known this school has been coming now for quite a few years, of expediting that catchment change process to ensure that Whiteley people who have paid for Whiteley schools actually get a place at top of the pecking order to get into that Whiteley school.
Can I answer that? I think there's a couple of points to raise. One is Councillor Lumbey did ask about some numbers. My understanding, and it is probably about a week or so out of date, but we had 2 children of year 3 age and 2 children of year 4 age in September who are those families that have written to local representatives about their not being able to access a school place. And other people in the room have commented that it's not easily done to launch a school class for just 2 children. Now, there is a bit of a chicken and egg dilemma there, because how many children does it take to be able to launch that in your class? But there's a specific issue that relates to funding that class, because Tim and governors could take that decision to launch the class. That's within their gift as an own admissions authority school, but the revenue funding would lag behind that process until we get to the point where we have a basic need. And I know I've talked to you previously, Councillor Woodward, about basic need, and that means availability of school places in an area just not existing, and therefore we may get to that point, but we won't get to that point by brilliant design, because right now the demand is for year 2 and year 3 and year 4 in September. Had that been an excess demand for year 1 and year 6 places, Cornerstone and the governing body couldn't have easily launched one class to support the needs of 2 additional year 1 children and 2 additional year 6 children. So we're faced with needing to monitor the situation as it develops, and we may be able to deliver school places. That is different to giving them catchment priority in the application process, because we can sort out the children who join from the bottom. The children joining in the year R, the intake year, we've already done it for 2021 without catchment priority at Cornerstone, and we can do it again for 2022 with the agreement of the governing body. It's much more these in-year arrivals that cause a different dilemma for the system and very limited scope to resolve it.
Chairman, if I may come back just briefly on that. When we opened Whiteley Primary School, we had a number of mixed classes, mixed year groups, which seemed to then make that work pretty well for the residents of Whiteley. And I just wonder, is that not possible in this case? Because I'm sure that if the school gets the appropriate support and funding, I'm guessing they'd be more than happy to deliver to the maximum number of children that is feasible. But what's the problem with joining years together, as was done in the existing Whiteley school?
Joining years together is absolutely possible, and if Tim and the governors wanted to do that they can do. The bit that I'm referring to specifically is the funding of the additional class, that is the growth in the school. And back when Whiteley was developed, local management of schools and formula funding was all in the gift of the county council and a colleague then who was probably called Thomas Whiffen, and he would speak regularly with Whiteley Primary School about how many children have you got now, and how many are we forecast to have, and then do a budget setting process that included retrospective funding and clawback if we had over forecast. Central government have taken over hold of school funding, and in particular growing schools funding, and have said you can only fund additional places where there is a basic need. And so it's a threshold around growing schools funding, which we were able to argue for the Year R cohort that will be in September in Cornerstone Primary School, but we can't yet argue it for any other year groups.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman. That's helpful.
Thank you, Councillor Woodward, and thank you, Martin. I see Mr. Clark has raised his hand. I think he's probably got something of value to add. So, Mr. Clark, if you'd like to, please.
Thank you, Chair. I hope it's of value. It was just to clarify that from the governing body's point of view at Cornerstone, we are very happy to have mixed age classes. That's something that we've communicated to our parents and said this will be part of how we grow as a school to make sure that public money is being spent as efficiently as possible. And certainly when we've spoken to Martin and other colleagues with Hampshire admissions team, we've said our preference would have been to open a new mixed year 3-4 class. So we have got, as I said, 33 in current year 3. And I think as Martin alluded to, we've got 4 people who have got appeals that are pending, 2 in year 3 and 2 in year 4 for September. So potentially we could be 5 over our maximum for safety and education. But I also understand Martin's point of view, and because of the change of the national funding formula, there's less scope for flexibility from Hampshire County Council.
Lovely, thank you, Mr. Clark. Councillor Pearson, if I could ask you to be brief, because obviously we are running over time. Yes. And I would like to get on to Sarah Tiller, who's been waiting quite a while.
Yes, I understand that. Martin, if I may ask you a question about Swanmore College. Presently, the college takes 60 children or so from North Whiteley. And I've just heard your comment about Henry Court School coming in the 2023 period. Is Swanmore College involved in the discussions about these school numbers and where these pupils shall go? Or are they being excluded? I do know the head teacher there is a tad concerned because, of course, it impacts on the future development of his comprehensive school in Swanmore.
The process that we're starting began recently. We've had conversations directly with Henry Court School, with Brookfield School. In September, we go into a period of informal consultation and follow that with a period of statutory consultation. And Carl Jonathan and his governing body would join that consultation. I do have to say that recruitment of Whiteley children at Swanmore College is out of catchment recruitment through parental preference. And whilst it's absolutely critical in Swanmore College's situation, from an admissions point of view, that's just something that happens in a system that allows that parental choice. And so certainly we want to hear from Swanmore College, but it's quite deliberate, the action that we're taking at the County Council to link North Whiteley children to the Whiteley children to Henry Court College through that formal catchment status from 2023.
Yeah, so consultation involves Swanmore College as from September, is it?
Yeah, it goes out. It will go out both. It will also, I must say, sorry for not saying it sooner, it will also go out to residents of North Whiteley as best as we can do that. Obviously, addresses are looking at a very fast pace, but yeah, it's a change of catchment, and we must consult with all relevant parties, which includes schools in a specified area in law, and then also the families affected, so North Whiteley families.
Okay, thank you, Martin. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin, and thank you, Councillor Pearson. Okay, if we could ask Sarah Tiller if she would like to say a few words, and apologies for the delay this evening.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Sarah Tiller. I'm the Managing Director for the South Eastern Hampshire area of the Hampshire, Southampton and Isle of Wight CCG, and actually my colleague Lisa Medway has also been waiting patiently, so she joins us today. I'm here to provide an update about the Whiteley surgery. and the provision of primary medical services to the community. And I really can't provide any more than that today because I've got to go at 8 o'clock. So just to let everyone know that the Whiteley Surgery's practice boundary has been extended. That was agreed last month. Apart from one road which currently sits in the boundary of the St John's Surgery. So Whiteley Surgery will be responsible for the patients in the area and increasing patients as they arrive. The issue that we've had is the expansion of the car park in order to accommodate those patients. Fareham Borough Council have insisted that the landlord conduct, engage in an ecological survey, as they were concerned about the woodlands that the car park was due to be built on. So the agreement has now been reached with Fareham Borough Council that a full BAT survey needs to be done in relation to that woodland. The good news is that they can take place in the summer, and it's the summer now, so it means that there's no delay, so we can get on and do the BAT survey, and then once we've got that, hopefully then we'll be able to get agreement from Fareham Borough Council, or the landlord will, and then they will proceed with the extension of the car park. That's it from me.
Lovely, thank you, Sarah. Very briefly, as I'm aware Sarah has to go, but are any questions, and please keep them brief. Councillor Woodward.
Thank you, Chairman. I will certainly keep it brief. Yeah, I was aware that there was this talk about the surgery car park issue now. I was aware of this survey that had been asked for, but I wouldn't like it thought for a moment that that's an automatic guarantee of a grant of planning permission, because of course this has been refused previously by Fareham Borough Council, and it's been to appeal, and it's been kicked out there. And finally, it really is not the solution to a good medical coverage for Whiteley to build a few extra car parking spaces in an overcrowded surgery. And I really do, I did take great heart actually from Sarah's comment at the last meeting, which I thought was really looking very positively to the future, and that it may well be justified in the future to have a bespoke facility of some description within the area to the north of Whiteley. And I'm really sorry that Sarah's been kept waiting so long, because I think that might have been something which we could usefully have expanded this evening.
Okay, I'm not hearing a question at all, Sarah. Councillor Woodward, do you like to embellish more, or is that your statement done?
I didn't think I was actually embellishing, Chairman. I just wonder whether Sarah might be able to give any thoughts to the future beyond an extension to an already very busy surgery car park.
So I think what we said last time is that there is provision within the surgery to expand the number of clinical rooms that are available, and that there may be an opportunity to extend the surgery at a point that the population warrants it. I don't think I said that we would be building any kind of new surgery in North Whiteley, because we know that you need a significant population to justify the building of a new surgery, and it's very difficult to attract GPs to take on new buildings. It's much better to help support the existing practices to develop and grow in order to support the ongoing needs of those populations as they grow. And that's the strategy in relation to the North Whiteley development. Much more likely to succeed, much more likely to be able to attract GPs, much more likely to be able to use the existing building to provide healthcare to the population.
May I quote, Chairman, from the last minutes, because that's what I was relying upon, at item 6, page 9, where it said members asked questions, debated issues, and the potential for a satellite healthcare provision in North Whiteley was a part of that discussion.
There's
Okay.
Potential developers to identify a space for future provision, and that this could be discussed further at the next meeting.
I'd have to look into that one, Councillor Woodward. Unfortunately, there's nothing mentioned on this current agenda for that, which I can only assume is either an unfortunate oversight or just one of those things. Could I ask someone from Democratic Services to comment, please?
Thank you, Chair. It's Matthew. Yeah, I mean, I think I'd need to go back and check the video if needs be, but I think that minute was just summarising members' discussion at that time in the meeting, and I know there was discussion around. I think members were sort of asking questions around a satellite provision, and I think that's what that minute is trying to say, really. But like I say, I mean, and I can always go back and the video of the meeting's available if we need to check anything.
Okay, I think that's a prudent measure. We'll look into that and get back to anyone. Are there any more questions at all for Sarah, please? Okay, no, I'm not seeing any raised hands. So if we could thank you, Sarah, for your comments, and we can move on to the next agenda item, which is the future agenda items. Obviously, we've discussed the future governance issue of North Whiteley. Does anyone else have any other items they wish raised for future agenda, please?
Healthcare, please, Chairman.
Duly noted, Councillor Woodward. Any other comments or any other?
I'll second that one.
Okay, Councillor Benthote.
Yeah, I think we need to keep an eye on the school admissions as well. I think we need to keep updated on that.
Very well. Anyone else? Councillor Evans. Oh, sorry. Julie Pinnock. Sorry.
Sorry, my hand has, electronic hand has given up completely. So I had to put a physical hand up. I'm so sorry that Sarah's had to wait. Now she's sort of under pressure to go. I wonder if in future we could have higher up the agenda outside people that we've invited to come along, because it's terribly embarrassing to hear that she's, was invited at a time that is really in the hands of councillors. Some councillors do ask a lot of questions.
Well, Therese, well said. I fully support you.
Yeah. So could we in future have, the outside invitees earlier on the agenda so they don't have to wait around?
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Mrs. Pinnock, Julie.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. I just want very helpful, as you say, suggestions for the future agenda items. We've obviously got the governance, schools admissions one we can watch. We've heard from the county today. I think just on the healthcare one that was suggested, I just wonder how we would lead that and who would bring that forward. Are we thinking of inviting the CCG again? We've heard from them today. I just think it'd be helpful if we had a steer as to how we might move that forward, because otherwise it's going to be an agenda item with no kind of substance to it. And I'm just a bit, I wouldn't want us to be talking around it again without a clear direction, Chair. So I just wonder if that's something we might like to either think about tonight or before the next meeting and agree a strategy for that.
Okay, I think we'll talk about that and agree a strategy a bit later on with that, just because obviously we've had an update this evening. Will as much changed in the next few months? Who knows? But I think we need to embellish on that a little bit further. But thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Anyone else, please? Councillor Lumby.
Thank you, Chair. I wondered whether we could at some point have a briefing in relation to the section 106 compliance and timetable, to the extent to which things have all been met on time, what's going on all those things. That would include obviously seeing where the schools are in the provision, but actually understand that broader context and really understand that. We do get the references in the reports, and that's really useful, but I think an actual sort of compliance table would be really, really useful. And, you know, to see to what extent as we go along the affordable housing is being provided, that sort of thing. So I'm sure that Mrs. Pinnaker's team is all over that, and that's something that just presses a button and churns out. But I think it will be useful for us all to understand. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Lumbey. Anyone else? Any other comments? Anything else anyone would like raised for the next agenda item, please? Okay, I'll take that as a no, in which case I think that's the agenda exhausted for this evening, and I'd like to thank everyone for attending. Obviously, we will be having the next meeting on the 16th of November. I'd like to thank everyone for attending and hope to see you all soon.